Shaw, Mississippi, October 15th, 2018. The woman came screaming out of the little pink house, some say beige house, on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. She was hysterical. A neighbor would go inside her home. He had managed to kill 2 big water moccasins by chopping their heads off. That was the first time that people even knew that someone had resided in the home. There are several different types of people that live in your neighborhood. There are the busybodies that think they know what everyone is doing. There are the ones that never interact with neighbors. You may even take a second to wonder about them. And then there are the ones that are rarely even at home. You never think about them until maybe you see a car parked in the driveway or you see a light on after dark. That's how it was for that family that stayed in that pink or beige house. Neighbors would come out to discuss the gruesome situation that occurred there. It was a situation that Shaw residents still talk about today. How could you not? Neighbors would say they thought 2 or 3 adults lived in the home with a small child. No, there was a woman and a small child that resided there. She always left for church every Sunday morning with a pretty little girl. They have been living there for maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years. No one in the neighborhood would be certain of who stayed there, but no one still fully understands what happened there in that pink or beige house. Some would even say that it smelled like she had been cooking all day. Then after the fact, they would say it smelled like something had been burning all day. Carolyn Jones, the 48-year-old woman, she stayed there. She was the grandmother of 20-month-old Royalty Marie Floyd. It's believed Jones' twin brother lived there as well. John Floyd, Royalty's father, said him and Royalty's mother decided that the grandmother on the matriarch side would watch Royalty. She even volunteered to do it so that her daughter, Veronica Shante Jones, could return back to work. The parents had seen the horrible things that had been happening to children in the daycares. He even spoke about the child who was left in a van and died at the daycare. So they would take extra precautions with their child. John Floyd was even asked what did he think about Carolyn Jones the first time he met her. He said she seemed warm and friendly like your average grandmother. He said, quote, "I would have never thought she would do something like that," unquote. He received a call from Royalty's grandfather while he was at work. He said Royalty was no longer with us. At first, he took it as maybe she was staying with other relatives. He said he couldn't wrap his mind around what he was hearing. People passed by the little beige house, or some say pink house, in Shaw. There was a high chair, stroller, scooter, trash barrel filled with toys, clothes, a big box of diapers. Some would get out and look through the rummage and take things. The things were in very good condition. No one would know until a week later why the children's toys and clothes and diapers was even outside at the end of the driveway of the little beige or pink house. On that day of October 15th, Joan's twin brother arrived to the home. He knew that something wasn't right in that home that day. He could smell something had been cooking at the point which it may have been burning. He asked Carolyn where the baby was. She told him, in the oven. She just stared straight ahead. He would drive down to the police station to get help, which was less than half a mile away. The policeman and Jones's brother would absolutely be terrified and sickened at what they would see. The oven was on and it had been turned sideways to face the counter. They had to pull it out and turn it around. The oven was hot. When they opened it, precious little Royalty Marie had been cooked. Jones was arrested. She sat in the back of the police car and she stared blankly ahead. Neighbors came out one by one after the word was spreading.
What is wrong with
and
her?
what had just happened in that pink or beige house. What would a woman cook a baby for? Why would they do something like this? A neighbor by the name of William Scott, he said Jones referred to the baby as having a, quote, evil spirit, unquote. The neighbors demanded justice for this baby. One neighbor had even suggested putting the murderer in the oven. The baby, she had been stabbed multiple times and placed in the oven. She was still alive. The autopsy reports would say her body had been burned beyond recognition. She would have to have a closed casket. Royalty's mother, I thought about, especially how can she handle such a tragedy like this? She posted to her Facebook page before deleting, quote, Royalty Marie Floyd was the best thing that ever happened to me. She's my one and only daughter, my first love. The hardest thing that I ever had to go through in my life. My heart had been ripped from my chest. I'm being told that my mother stabbed my daughter and baked her in the oven. But my mother loved my daughter. She always treated Royalty like royalty. And everybody knows that. To my daughter Royalty, Mommy will always love you, and you will live in our hearts forever, unquote. If your mother raised you well, and there wasn't any violence or any type of abuse in your life, we all know that the next best thing to the mother is the grandmother. But if you can't trust your mother, who can you trust?
That's Grandma's baby.